Well, Ukraine's aiming to deploy more advanced weapons in its pushback against Russian forces. President Zelensky says Ukraine has taken delivery of a sophisticated air defence system called NASAMS from the US. Russia currently controls around 15% of Ukraine, and as we just heard, Moscow is preparing to formally annex those areas following those so-called referendums. Well, Tim Ripley is an author, journalist and military expert based in London. Welcome to DW. Tell us about these NASAMS weapons systems. Why are they such big news?
Well, these are weapon systems that's made in Norway by the Norwegian company Kongsberg in cooperation with the US missile company Raytheon. And they've incorporated the air-to-air missiles that normally go on F-16 and Eurofighter aircraft into a ground-based system. They have a thing called the AMRAAM missile, which has a range of between 20 and 40 kilometers. So it's quite a powerful weapon for shooting down aircraft. And it has a radar system as well, which can detect aircraft at probably 100 kilometers range. So it gives the Ukrainians a chance to establish air defense umbrellas over key targets, bridges, factories, airfields, and prevent Russian fighter planes, Russian cruise missiles hitting their key targets, key logistic infrastructure, airfields, ammo dumps, that kind of thing. So it plugs lots of holes in the Ukrainian air defense. They have sort of Soviet-era missiles and systems, but they've taken quite a pounding over the past 7 or 8 months, and the Ukrainians need some replenishment, and this is a way to do that.
OK, so purely a defensive system that Russia has no way of countering?
Well, they do have a way of countering, of course. They can fire their own artillery, they can try and bomb it, they can try and jam it. It is a modern Western system, so it should be quite able to resist jamming. But this is a war of attrition in the air and between missile systems. The Ukrainians and the Russians have been slogging out in the air for since the start of the war, and they've taken heavy casualties on both sides. So the Ukrainians need a never-ending supply of new weapons to keep them in the fight.
Right. And so these have come from the United States, which is clearly throwing lots and lots of money and the most sophisticated systems at this fight.
Well, they're made in Norway with American components, the missiles, which is the weapon part of it, but the radars, the package, the launchers, all that kind of the infrastructure that makes it work comes from Norway. But the Americans are buying them from the Norwegians and who have a production line going for this system, so it can be made available quite quickly. OK, so as a defensive system, then this doesn't change the way that Ukraine prosecutes this war. It just makes them safer from Russian aggression. Well, I would say it keeps them able to stay in the fight. It keeps them going through the winter. I mean, they've suffered heavy losses on their air defences. They're running out of missiles. Every time the Russians fire a barrage of cruise missiles at Ukraine, they use up their stock of missiles. So they need replenishment constantly to keep in the fight. It's all about sustaining them in this war, rather than giving them new capabilities. They have lots of air defences, but it's a very intensive business that involves the consumption of a lot of missiles, which is what they don't have, because all the missiles that they have at the moment were made in the Soviet Union in Russia, which obviously they can't replenish them from, so they need an alternative source of supply.
Thank you, that's very clear. Tim Ripley, military expert in London. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.